God's word. You'll have your freedom.
The secret behind the greatness and legacy of the John Wick franchise is not just the badass titular protagonist, but the memorable supporting characters that contribute heavily to the storyline. Over the years, we've been amazed by John Wick's iconic allies and menacing villains. But every once in a while, there's the addition of a mysterious gray character that steals the show.
Come on.
The only way John Wick will...
John Wick Chapter 4 has been an astounding success at the box office, and the fans simply can't get enough of one such gray character in the mix of things, an assassin named Mr. Nobody. In this video, we will explore his origins and possible theories that might indicate where his story goes next. Before we get into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
The only way John Wick will ever have freedom and peace.
Who is Mr. Nobody, and what makes him such an important part of John Wick 4? Mr. Nobody's appearance in John Wick Chapter 4 is shrouded by mystery, as he never really reveals his actual name. This seasoned assassin, played by Shamir Anderson, is first seen checking into the Osaka Continental in Tokyo, run by John Wick's friend Koji. John is on the run from the High Table, and the assassins sent after him, and Mr. Nobody, aka the Tracker, anticipated, just like Kane, that John will be headed to the Osaka Continental for refuge. He checks into the hotel along with his canine companion, and when Koji's daughter, Akira, reminds him that dogs aren't allowed on the Continental premises, he has a quick comeback suggesting that his pet is his emotional support animal. He seems to be relatively new in the assassin business, and not many people know about him yet. However, you will start taking him seriously immediately, because he soon opens a journal that he maintains where you can see every calculation and theory that he has formulated regarding the titular character. Clearly, Mr. Nobody has been planning John Wick's assassination for a long time now, and he was just waiting for the right moment to strike. When Kane arrives with many other assassins and mercenaries of the High Table to hunt John down in Osaka Continental, Mr. Nobody saves his life and kills quite a few of them because he wants the prize for himself. He doesn't take the shot even when he has an opportunity, and we soon realize that the price is not enough for him yet. He adopts a clever tactic of saving John Wick until the price on his head is sufficiently massive. The Tracker makes the mistake of striking a deal with the cunning Vincent de Gramont, who assures him of a great price as long as he kills John. However, the High Table member soon maims him by stabbing him in the hand as a proof of the deal. It's similar to how John had to chop off his finger to show his allegiance to the Elder in the previous movie. Following Mr. Nobody's deal with de Gramont, the latter threatens him about the dire consequences of failing to kill John Wick. Later, he appears in an iconic scene with Killa Harkon, played by Scott Adkins, and Kane, as they play a poker game for the right to kill John Wick. When Kane catches Killa bluffing, the latter orders his men to kill everyone. In the fight that ensues, Kane, Mr. Nobody, and John are on the same side, and afterwards, Kane stops the Tracker from taking a clear shot at John because he had to kill the assassin himself to save his daughter. Finally, when John challenges Vincent to a duel, the High Table member increases the price of his bounty so that he can be stopped from reaching the dueling venue. Mr. Nobody tracks him the whole time, and kills many of the assassins who try to get to him. He even makes use of Vincent's desperation and pushes the price up to $40 million. However, everything changes after an encounter with Vincent's right-hand man, Chidi, who almost kills the Tracker's dog. After John saves the dog from certain death, Mr. Nobody is convinced that it would be far too unethical to kill the man. He gives up on his mission and makes peace with the idea of letting the bounty slip. Is Mr. Nobody a member of the High Table? Exploring his origins before his on-screen appearance. He might appear out of nowhere, and all we've seen are a few theories regarding his true origins, which we will discuss in the next segment. Mr. Nobody doesn't seem to be a part of the High Table directly, but he is aware of how the organization functions and knows about the rules of trade. He officially becomes a part of the workings of the organization only after he strikes a deal with Vincent de Gramont. From the reaction of the others, he appears to be an unfamiliar face, possibly new in the assassin business. At the same time, his skills are like that of a specially trained, experienced killer, and it's tough to understand his true nature of work before we see him in action. He desperately needs the massive sum of money for some reason, and once again, we have been kept in the dark regarding his true needs. However, a few crucial fan theories have made inroads into the true origins of Mr. Nobody. Is Mr. Nobody related to Sophia? This has been one of the raging questions ever since Mr. Nobody appeared in a key role in John Wick Chapter 4. If you've watched the previous installments in the franchise, you're aware of the character Sophia played by Halle Berry. John Wick went to her for some assistance, and she had to help him because of a blood oath taken by her before. Their conversation suggested that John had helped her in finding a safe getaway for her daughter, and she owed him for his efforts. Now, Mr. Nobody can be seen with a furry buddy by his side who is almost as good a warrior as the assassin himself. He takes down the enemies and lands lethal bites that immobilize them for Mr. Nobody to add the finishing touch, and his moves are bound to remind you of Sophia's dogs in John Wick Chapter 3 Parabellum. What's more, the dog is a Belgian Malinois, the exact same breed owned by Sophia. Naturally, the fans have started speculating about some connection between the two characters, and we have to agree that it's quite plausible. Previously, we never got to see Sophia's husband, and Mr. Nobody could be the man. We didn't get to see what happened to Sophia following her fight with the mob boss alongside John Wick and her dogs. Surely the High Table wouldn't take too kindly to such defiance, and she could be in some serious trouble following her help. In fact, the reason behind Mr. Nobody trying to compile such a massive sum of money could be to buy out her freedom, and something on these lines is briefly suggested by his interaction with the mob boss played by Scott Adkins. The fan theories also believe that Mr. Nobody's dog is one of the two that we have seen previously, and all of these ideas are too rational to be struck down as outrageous. All we can say for sure is that Mr. Nobody having links with Sophia broadens the opportunity for a future story arc featuring the two. What makes Mr. Nobody so dangerous? Mr. Nobody has been established as an A-grade assassin who's right up there with the likes of John Wick or Kane. He's a skilled fighter and a pro when it comes to the use of multiple weapons. He happens to be a crack shot, which is evident from the way he eliminates those who try to kill John Wick because he wants the prize for himself. He has been outsmarted by Kane on a few occasions, but that's only because he wasn't really paying attention or treating Kane as his enemy. It was a memorable moment when Kane stopped him from taking the shot when John Wick was clearly in his sights. The makers purposely ensured a few such moments to give you the idea that Mr. Nobody is capable of taking down John Wick. He proves his combat skills when the two briefly duel, but he also shows his compassionate side by sparing John when he deems it unfair. He is also a man of commitment, and during his deal with Vincent de Gramont, he proves that he can go to any extent to secure the deal. He has a cool and smart head on his shoulders, knowing when to show his aggression and when to be submissive. Mr. Nobody also has the perfect good boy by his side, and his loyal and ferocious hound only adds to how dangerous he can be. Overall, this charismatic assassin with an attitude is the perfect addition to the franchise, and it's not surprising to see fans go gaga over him. Is it his similarity with John Wick that makes Mr. Nobody spare his life? You've got to admit that Mr. Nobody shares a few uncanny similarities with the Baba Yaga of the assassin world. For starters, Mr. Nobody is almost as effective of an assassin, and the fact that he is helped by a well-trained canine makes him almost John's equal. It has been proven during their direct confrontations that they are evenly matched, and it can be anyone's game if they decide to fight till death. Moreover, Mr. Nobody shares a similar soft corner as John Wick, the love for his dog. During one of the more notable confrontations with John Wick, the latter ends up saving the dog from certain death just as it was about to get shot. This changed Mr. Nobody's perception of the man, and he could not bring himself to kill John Wick anymore. Later, when Chidi almost ends up killing his dog, the man doesn't take it too well and lets his canine companion land a lethal bite in Chidi's crotch region before shooting him in the head. His dog then pees on Chidi's lifeless body to show the disdain for such a lowlife, and Mr. Nobody is clearly more concerned about his dog than the millions of dollars as the prize money for killing John. His rage following the attack on his dog is bound to remind the fans of John Wick and how he took on the entire underworld after his beloved puppy was brutally killed. Apart from these obvious similarities, they both even share a similar nature, where they hunt as lone wolves and get the job done without a fuss. Mr. Nobody might have spared the life of John Wick because of his compassion in saving his dog, but there is also the underlying factor where he probably realized how similar he was to John and couldn't make an enemy out of him. It also works the other way around, and even John Wick did not show any signs of hostility towards Mr. Nobody after the latter chose not to shoot him. These men deserved a mission together, but that's probably not happening anytime soon. Does Mr. Nobody actually get the happy ending in the movie? Perceptions will vary, and many might not agree with us on this, but we believe that Mr. Nobody, aka the Tracker, got the best possible ending in the movie. He starts off as a skilled assassin and even manages to strike a deal with the High Table. By the end of the movie, we are aware of his true skills as he takes down hordes of assassins who are out to get John Wick. But more importantly, he turns out to be the character that has grown the most over the course of the narrative. Mr. Nobody turns from someone whose life's purpose is to get a hefty bounty for killing John Wick to a man of compassion who realizes that it would be really unfair to kill someone who's actually a good man. His admiration for John Wick's skills as an assassin turns to respect for the man's humanity, and he chooses to pardon his lifelong target. There is also another story arc surrounding the man which is worth considering. The narrative has several moments where he's caught in a confrontation with the blind assassin Kane, and the latter keeps warning him about the consequences of getting stuck in a deal with the High Table. Of course, after committing to take up the hit job on John Wick to Marquis Vincent de Gramont, he has effectively come under the purview of the organization, and people like Kane are well aware of what this leads to. John Wick and Kane have spent decades trying to sever their ties with the High Table, and here they are, still fighting a reluctant battle, all because it is almost impossible to part ways with the all-powerful organization that regulates and monitors every form of organized crime. Kane keeps trying to make him understand that the deal is not worth all the money in the world, and by the end of the movie, Mr. Nobody seems to understand the reality behind this philosophy. He seems to have made peace with himself, and losing out on millions of dollars is no longer hurting him. With the death of Vincent de Gramont, we can assume that Mr. Nobody's deal with the High Table is off, unless of course someone decides to hold him accountable for failing to kill John Wick and killing many assassins of the organization. All that is saved for later, which brings us to our next big question. Are we going to see a Mr. Nobody spin-off? The role of this charismatic, dog-loving, and lethal bounty hunter has been appreciated by fans and critics alike, and this has also fueled rumors of a possible spin-off. The officials at Lionsgate have already revealed that they are optimistic about quite a few potential spin-off projects in the John Wick universe, and the likes of the Continental miniseries and Ballerina have already been announced. While it's still too early to comment on the chances of a Mr. Nobody spin-off, the actor who played the role, Shamir Anderson, has confirmed that he would love to reprise the role if given the opportunity. The actor seems to like the idea of the fan theories that link his character to Sophia, and he's open to seeing the idea being put together in a good story. In a recent interview, Shamir Anderson went on to say that a spin-off on this character deserves to have some Oscar-level actor as the villain to spice things up. He suggested a couple of big names like Liam Neeson and Denzel Washington, and if someone of this stature is roped in for the villain's role, there will surely be considerable fan interest. These are still early days to speculate, but everyone who found the character intriguing will be delighted to have a proper spin-off story. Do let us know in the comments below what you think of this calculative assassin and where you see this character going in the future. That's all for this time. Thanks for watching and have a marvelous day.
The only way John Wick will ever have freedom and peace